Alright, hello everybody. It's been a freaking long time. I'll try and make this quick because I made an update video a while back talking about why it's been such a long time. It was parts going over, blah blah blah, overtime, yada yada. And even without all that, things have been kind of rough. I'm gonna be honest. Like I said, dog died. I had a lot of friends gotten in some accidents. Coworker died. I recorded that video the exact same day that Charlie Kirk died as well, and that was a lot to take in. I'm hoping everybody's been giving prayers to Charlie Kirk's family. It's been a rough year, and there's a plane flying over me. I don't know if you can hear that, but yeah, it's been a long time since I've gotten back into reading Empress Theresa, and I'm gonna be honest, I kind of forgot where we last left off. I'm not sure if it really matters. I remember that Teresa was she was having like a meeting with like the leader of Israel and talking about how uh, something to do with her having a bunch of power. A lot of people are afraid of her, and she says, "Oh, let them live in fear." It was either her or Steve. I think Steve was like encouraging her, and she like wanted control of Israel and whatnot. I really apologize. It's been a long time. I kind of forgot a lot of it, but uh, right now we're in chapter 19. This one seems a little bit long, but let's begin. It's been a long time. I'm probably a little rusty nowadays, so I want to apologize in advance if my commentary is a little bit stale or rough. But let's begin. Chapter 19. Prime Minister Scherzer, if I'm saying that right, had not tried to hide his visit to London to see me. The Israelis needed to know he was trying to do something, whether or not he got anything out of me. When he returned to Tel Aviv, if I'm saying that right, he made a television broadcast to the nation. The usually stern PM allowed himself to emote. My beloved Israelis, this is a blessed day. I talked with Mr. and Mrs. Hartley, hoping against all reason that Mrs. Hartley could help us. I am happy to announce that she and her husband were most helpful and sympathetic. No negotiation was necessary. No deals were made. The Hartleys walked into the meeting prepared to give us everything. Those who challenge Teresa Hartley's power are fools. She could destroy the world. Don't push her too far. I cannot tell you what agreements were made at this time, but let me assure you the future of the Israelis is secure. We will meet at last. Or we. That was bad. We will at last have our long awaited land of milk and honey. The young woman well deserves the title Empress Theresa. Roll credits joke, I guess. As usual, the media tried to stir up controversy. They said Scherzer was using doublespeak in saying there were no deals, but we made agreements. The media could go to Sheol. Yeah, exclamation mark. Blair told reporters. Teresa gave Scherzer, I think I gave Blair an accent, I don't know. Teresa gave Scherzer everything unconditionally. Scherzer gave Teresa nothing. That's not a deal. No, he's not talking anymore? My Antarctica project took longer than expected. Several HAL programs had to be written. The first one I needed was also the simplest, and I initiated it 2 days after Steve's 1 week warning ran out, and there were several dozen planes stationed at the tip of South America, flying out one after the other to watch what I was doing. They saw the first task begin, along with the southwestern corner of the rectangle where the line I had drawn began. The ice went straight up to the ice went straight up at 200 miles an hour. It never. Oh wait, sorry. The ice went up straight at 200 miles an hours. That, that's how it's written. This 10-mile wide curtain of ice went merrily down the line I'd drawn at 20 miles an hour. Okay, they said it correctly this time. The first plane to reach this activity went down into the first channel, as it was soon called, and noted that the bottom was a perfectly flat table of rock, 1,000 feet below sea level. The channel was already 60 miles long when this information was passed to the world. It was clear I was ripping up a lot of rock, along with the ice, to keep the channel bottom below sea level. There was a lot of excitement in the American station located at the exact South Pole, officially called the Amundsen Scott South Pole Station. Sorry if I'm not saying that right. It had around 150 scientists. I wondered what they had to do besides look at the 3-mile thick ice. The line I had drawn passed less than 100 miles from the station, and the rising ice curtain would be closest to them in 2 days. They planned to send out a dozen people on snowmobiles to get a close look. Now came one of those surprises that complicated my life. You would think that people would appreciate my efforts to do something about the the OPEC situation. You would think they would love what I was doing in Antarctica and appreciate everything next page had done to save their lives. Nope, all forgotten. A US senator who wanted to be a television celebrity made a speech saying that I was tearing up. I never there's so much melodrama in a lot of this. I don't know if they're talking about people tearing up and being like, "Oh, she's such a wonderful person," or literally tearing up. Like sometimes it's hard for me to know what's saying. I'll try and reread that. Sorry about that. A U.S. senator wanted to be a television celebrity made a speech saying that I was tearing up an area of land equal to New York City every 15 minutes, and I was the most dangerous person who had ever lived. Steve told me, "He's going to look like an idiot when you're done with Antarctica." What had changed? Nothing I had done. Nothing I had done then. Nothing I had done until then damaged land. I can't read. Now I was ripping up 3 square miles of land every minute. That scared people. What if I did this in their backyard? Within hours, people demonstrated in the streets all over the world. And it wasn't just in big cities. Sorry, there was a hair. There were demonstrations in small towns. Television showed mothers holding their kids and crying, complaining, "Has Teresa gone insane, destroying land like that?" She's saying like this is unreasonable of them to act like that. How quickly people forgot my benevolence when fear took control of them. It's like, "Oh, I helped you before. Why can't you just be a little bit of fearful of what I'm doing now? This is absurd, I swear." The next morning, Steve and I were in the living room with the Parker family when the phone rang. Only a few people had access to that phone. Arthur came over and announced, I think he has a British. Yeah, President Stinson calls Madam Hotley. I took the phone. Hello? The president was in a nasty mood. "Teresa, you have to stop everything until we." Oh yeah, I think the president's a woman. Originally, I think I like made a bad comment about that earlier. I don't know. "Teresa, you have to stop everything until we find out what you're doing." What? This was not the sweet lady. Yeah, sweet lady. All right. This was not the sweet lady she presented to the public. I kept silent for a while, trying to control my own temper. It wouldn't do to have the world empress blow her top. That would really make the world nervous. I selected a calm response. "I can't tell you what I'm doing. People will get in the way and get themselves killed. I would be blamed. Forget that. That's not good enough, Teresa. I want you to stop everything and come to Washington tomorrow." Holy smokes, Batman. Was she worked up? They had to be pelting her with crap over there. Yeah. "Are you leading the crowd or following, Madam President? I'm trying to calm 1,000 riots. Get on the next plane to Washington." Well, this was going nowhere. "Tell the people I'm still waiting for an apology for the attempt on my life. But I haven't done anything to anybody, have I?" I hung up on her and went back to sit by Steve. Yeah, Teresa's just a bad guy. Yeah, "I am waiting for this world to apologize, and I'll stop giving them these calamities." I'm starting to think that the president's the good guy. Anyway, I hung up on her and went to sit by Steve. "Well, that went well," I said sarcastically. "What did she want?" She told me to stop everything and go to Washington to explain what I was doing. "You can't do that." I explained that, but she didn't listen. The phone rang again. Arthur answered, and then walked up to Mr. Parker. "The Prime Minister calls you, sir." Eyebrows went up all over the room. Parker went to the phone and listened to Blair for a couple minutes. He returned to us and sat down. "The Prime Minister will order soldiers and anti-aircraft weapons moved up to the house." I looked at Steve, who was equally amazed. "I'm going to write a book." Is this Steve talking? "I'm going to write a book," he said. I asked, "Mr. Parker, would the president try to stop me?" Next page. Okay. I don't know who's talking. There are many unfriendly countries. The Prime Minister's mess. There are many unfriendly countries. The Prime Minister's message is a two-edged sword, intended to calm world fears. You will be defended, but if you start to harm people, the guns could be turned on you. Steve jumped and headed for the phone. Mr. Parker also jumped and interceded him. "Wait, Steve. Whatever you say will be Wait, Steve. Whatever you say will be interpreted as Theresa's anger. Silence may speak loudest." Steve yielded and came back to my side. Early that evening, the soldiers started moving in. By dawn's early light, they'd set up Gatling guns and small anti-aircraft missiles on all four sides of the house. Gatling is capitalized for some reason. The Gatling guns were mainly for the small drones everybody had now. The missiles were for phones and helicopters. The soldiers had rifles to take down anybody who approached on foot. All this was shown on television. It encouraged people to continue their demonstrations. They felt they were fighting me. 2 days had gone by, and the American station scientists were waiting next to the line of the coming channel. They had to stay a few miles away, because a lot of ice was falling in. The rising ice and rock curtain passed by. It was a thrilling scene. The scientists had a ground view and captured the ground level noise. Bug-eyed people around the world watched in stony silence. There's an E in stony, right? Stony? I don't know. Maybe I'm losing it. A little after midnight on the third day, the channel reached the Ross ice shelf. Water from underneath the ice shelf rushed in at 100 miles an hour. The water was from 1,000 feet below sea level, and the 400 pounds per square inch pressure made the water move very fast. I needed a lot of water coming in quickly. Some ice had fallen into the channel. The violence of the rushing water broke the ice down into a slurry. I had worried about an ice jam, but it didn't happen. After waiting a few minutes to make sure the water didn't stop rushing in for some reason, I changed a parameter on the HAL program to stop tearing up more ice and rock, but keep on pushing the material already raised to beyond the Earth's gravitational influence. Steve called the BBC to tell them to watch the western edge of the rectangle in the morning at 9 o'clock London time. Then we went to bed. We woke up at 7 to get ready for the next phase of my Antarctica spectacular. The week's warning about the destruction in Antarctica ran out a few days late because of the complicated HAL programs I needed to write first. It was time to initiate 3 programs at once. Long-range propeller-driven airplanes were slowly cruising around Antarctica outside the rectangle indicated on the map we sent to Blair. What I had done with the channel to the Ross ice shelf was nothing. The pilots were not prepared for what happened next. Along the western edge of the rectangle, a curtain of ice flew straight up in the air. The ice went up at my standard 200 miles per hour. But so huge was the rectangle, the ice appeared to rise in a barely perceptible motion. The western edge of the rectangle was 500 miles long. This operation was similar to my channel digging, but it was 50 times wider. A plane pilot connected to a television network said, "This is 10,000 times larger than..." Next page. "What she's doing at the North Pole. Forget the pictures. You have to be here to understand the size of this thing." Even Steve and I, watching television in England, had underestimated the impression this sight would have. It made your spine tingle. One plane got sight of another with the ice curtain behind. Zooming away made this second plane disappear into an insignificant dot compared to the ice. Now people could get an idea of the size of this thing. In a couple of minutes, the ice was higher than the highest plane, and then it became visually clear it was going out to space, just like the material from the channel. I was going to empty the rectangle of ice. The ice curtain moved east. Planes moved in for a closer look. The curtain had moved over a few miles, leaving a hole in the 2-mile thick ice cover. A 2-mile high sheer wall of ice could not stand under its own weight, and the ice walls were collapsing section by section in spectacular crashes on the ground far below. Having Hal hold up all that ice in the air within the Earth's gravity field would be too dangerous. As soon as the ice reached a height of 20 miles, I had Hal start accelerating it towards escape velocity. We would never see it again. The street demonstrations had just started organizing in Europe. When the ice flew up, they quickly dissipated and everybody rushed home to watch television. In a while, the ice curtain had moved a few miles further away and more planes felt safe to fly down and inside the ice hole, flying close but at a safe distance from the collapsing ice walls was a thrill for the pilots who tended to be daredevils. They could see that the floor of the de-iced space was flat and at sea level. Again, it was clear I was tearing up rock along with the ice. An hour went by, and only 10 miles of the 1,500-mile-long rectangular area had been cleansed out of ice. President Stinson came on live television at 4 a.m. Washington time to address the nation. Yes, that's right. She came on at 4 a.m. I mean, I'm a swing shift worker, I guess, so I'm not sure if that's like a weird time. I'll be brief. This is not the time to talk about Theresa. We don't want to distract her. We want her to fully concentrate on whatever it is she's doing. That's all she said. She was really saying, shut the Sheol up about Theresa. We don't want to get her upset. Let her forget about us. Do I need to say more about this villain thing? This was evidently going to take 6 days at the rate it was going, and after 3 hours, the networks reduced the image to a corner of the television screen as they moved to other subjects. But minutes later, the television screen returned to full screen views of the rectangular area. The planes had noticed that the ground that was being denuded, D-E-N-U-D-E-D, sorry, I don't know that word, being denuded of ice cover was sinking. The rock was going down. Where is it going? Exclaimed President Stinson to some of the people in the White House. At least 2 operations were going on at once. I was stripping off the ice and rock down to sea level, and at the same time lowering the rock underneath. What I was doing, everybody wanted to know. What was I doing? Everybody wanted to know. The way this sentence is formed is really weird. It's what was I doing, comma, everybody wanted to know. I don't. That's phrased really strange. Why was the rock in the rectangle going down? Where was it going? We and the Parkers were having a good time. Next page. We and the Parkers were having a good time watching all this on television. The chattering of the anchors helplessly speculating on my intentions were funny. She's just sadistic. Like, my foot. Oh, I was like kneeling on my foot this whole time. It's like, I feel pins and needles in it. Yeah, I love watching them spectating, helpless, wondering what my intentions are. So evil. On what my intentions were. They didn't have a clue. Only Prime Ministers Blair and Scherzer knew part of the plan. Each of these gentlemen sitting in his capital city must have enjoyed the show. Meanwhile, lest we forget, the water in the channel to the Ross ice shelf had been rushing down the channel for 13 hours. It reached the rectangle, and water was seen falling 100 feet into it. It was like a 10-mile wide waterfall. By bedtime, the rectangle's rock had descended over 300 feet. We called it a night. In the morning, the rectangle had dropped 1,700 feet. Rock and ice were visibly collapsing along the western half of the rectangle, while the eastern half, still waiting for the uprising ice curtain, was sinking, still covered with the ice that had been there for eons. The news anchors had figured out that I had to be moving water into the rectangle to maintain world ocean levels. There could be no other reason, especially as no changes in ocean levels had yet been detected, not even an inch. From this, and the fact that the rectangle's rock was disappearing into the earth, it necessarily followed that I was doing something that would increase the ocean's volume, if not for the spillway moving water to the rectangle. Therefore, I had to be moving rock deep below the Antarctic continent out to the ocean. They were right. That's what I was doing. On the third day, it was announced that the Atlantic Ocean had risen by 4 feet. This made me worry. The ice and rock removal was happening faster than the inrushing channel water could replace it. This showed in the channel's waterfall. It was 800 feet high. A little thought provided the explanation. The bottom of the channel was 1,000 feet below sea level, but the water in the rectangle was higher than that. Therefore, the channel's water supply wasn't operating at 100% efficiency. Sorry, I need to readjust myself. Yeah, my feet are falling asleep. A little while later, and some really surprising news reassured me. Scientists said the Pacific Ocean had dropped a foot. This was because the channel to the Ross Ice Shelf was draining water from the Pacific side of Antarctica. I'm sorry I'm laughing, but it's like, this is getting really boring. It's just, oh, this water's going here, that water's going there, and then precipitation. When I feel like I'm in like a science class or something, trying to, I don't know. Okay, I lost myself. This is because the channel. Okay. As the day dragged on, the Atlantic rose to 5 feet above normal and stopped there. Coastlines could handle coastlines could handle that if there were no hurricanes. Could use some commas here. President Stinson's not so subtle hint took effect. The street demonstrations stopped. Newscasters were careful what they said. The world was nervous. Nobody wanted to breathe a word against me, for fear I would run amok. By noon of the fourth day, it became clear where the unseen moving rock was going. The surface of the ocean between Antarctica and Africa was flowing outward in all directions. Something was rising. A day later, the outline of this flowing water could be made out. It exactly mirrored the Antarctic rectangle, and so all the mysteries were solved. I was moving incredible amounts of rock from under Antarctica northward and raising the ocean floor. Why I told President Stinson people would get in the way and get themselves killed was now obvious. If the world had known I was going to raise the ocean floor between Africa and Antarctica, boats full of. Next page. Boats full of people would have rushed to the area for various reasons. It would have been a disaster. I feel like that would have just warned them of what was to come. Like, what about all those innocent people, like, on boats, just do, whoa, water levels, and then get drowned or something? I don't know. It would have been a disaster. Boats would be crushed against each other or overturned by the outrushing water. Now it was too late to go in. The outrushing water would push them away. By the sixth day, the mirroring rectangle of ocean floor finally broke through the surface. The water flowing out of the way had washed away most of the ocean floor mud, leaving some small mounds of rock exposed. We had not expected this washing away of the ocean floor mud, but no matter. The effects would be helpful when I raised the Jewish island. When the complete outline of the new Antarctic Ocean island had broken through the surface and reached 100 feet above the sea, I stopped everything, except for pushing out the ice and rock already stripped off Antarctica farther and farther out to space. The ice and rock already. Okay, pushing in. Okay. We went to bed. President Minister. I cannot read. Prime Minister Blair called Edmund Parker to ask if he could visit in the morning, and of course, Parker said yes. The soldiers and their weapons were withdrawn from the Parker house during the night. Nobody apologized to me. Blair arrived at 10. Arthur told us the PM was visiting. We took the hint and went downstairs. Blair and Edmund Parker were chatting in the living room as we entered. We exchanged the usual pleasantries. Excuse me. This time, Steve opened the discussion. Theresa has turned off the part of the HAL program that tore up the land. When the ice and rock escapes Earth's gravity, she'll dismantle the program. But doesn't HAL now have a reflex to destroy land? No, the program is made up of hundreds of reflexes she's given to HAL, but the program isn't a reflex. That's a considerable relief. He has good news. Theresa has been working on bringing a large amount of carbon to Earth. We decided that it's not needed for electric power. We think the new island will give us all the energy we need. Theresa changed the program. The carbon she's isolating is close to the sun's heavy gravity, and it's around 8,000 degrees. The gravity there is 22 times what we feel on Earth. It occurred to us that if Theresa stretched out this mass of carbon to a cylinder 100 miles high, the pressure at the bottom will be way over 1,000,000 pounds per square inch. The carbon will turn to diamond. If it works, Theresa will throw a ring of diamonds into orbit and give the Israelis 24 hours daylight. I was surprised that Blair... I'm sorry, I just love the voice again. I was surprised that Blair didn't get very excited at this news. He seemed to not notice. Maybe he didn't believe Steve or understand him. I added, I'll dump a pile of diamonds in England. You'll all go into the diamond cutting business. I can see it now. We walk into McDonald's, and teenage girls are wearing diamond necklaces and tiaras with real diamonds. Yeah, okay, I'll just dump a bunch of diamonds and then, you just switch all your jobs and go into a diamond business. It's just on a whim like that, I guess. Blair's eyes were wide open. Then he became emotional and had to clear his throat. I'm trying to get into character. Apparently, he'd finally understood what Steve said. Thank you. You have no idea what this will mean to Israel and England. Why England? Next page. It will provide thousands of diamond cutting jobs for our people. At least 50,000, I would say. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I guess if the price goes down, women will buy them 100 at a time. Blair went on. I came to ask what should be announced about the new island raised yesterday. I came to ask... Okay, it's a question. This wording. It's Theresa's island, said Steve. Nobody has any rights to it. If any ship lands there without her permission, she'll destroy the engines. The sailors can row a rowboat back home. Yeah, it's mine. You stand against me, you die. Or you get punished. And if there's oil there? Theresa brought an office building in New York next to Central Park. Jan Struthers is setting up business there. If anybody wants to make a deal drilling on Theresa's island, or just want to buy the oil, they can contact Jan Struthers. Her price is $20 a barrel. She's not greedy. May I announce these plans? You bet. I can't wait to see OPEC's face. I wouldn't mention the diamond business. Israel's enemies might find a way to get around it. Quite right. Blair now assumed that anguished, frowning expression of someone who is about to ask a really big favor. I hesitate to make this request. You're already doing so much. Go ahead, I said to encourage him. Prime Minister Scherzer points out that when you raise the land bridge to Crete, it will all be mud. It will be impossible to drive and walk through it. Could you raise the bridge soon to give the mud time to dry out and harden? Sure, I can do it in 3 weeks. Soon enough? Yes, it will take Israel's enemies much longer to prepare an attack. We detect no preparations. Won't raising the bridge now tell everybody what's going on, including Israel's enemies? Yes, but the benefits outweigh the risks. The Israeli people must be prepared for an evacuation, if one is necessary. It's not something people can adjust to in one day. Imagine an evacuation is needed and the people panic at the idea. They need time to think about it. Also, the Prime Minister needs to see if the Israelis are willing to move. They'll need to understand it's leave or die. If the situation deteriorates to that level, the Israelis will thoroughly discuss their options in all eventualities. Tell Scherzer it's in 3 weeks. Alright, just a moment. Alright, sorry, I'm back. Just got some lunch and everything, dinner. I'll explain that later. Anyway, sorry. If the situation deteriorates to that level, the Israelis will thoroughly discuss their options in all eventualities. Tell Scherzer it's in 3 weeks. Prime Minister Blair returned to London and made the announcement about my oil island. Of course, nobody actually knew if there was oil there, but oil company spokesman said it was almost certain there was, or all theories about oil foundation would have to be thrown out. It looked very promising. They had never explored the area because it was so inaccessible. A period of tension followed. OPEC assembled an emergency meeting of its members. The organization had not set a deadline for its demands. Now it was feared it would start the embargo immediately. For 2 days, the OPEC leaders met in secret. Then the conference broke up and everybody went home without making an official statement. Gradually, details leaked out. The members feared. Next page. That if they started an embargo there, that if they start an embargo, this is why I want commas. I don't know what I'm reading. That if they started an embargo there would be a mad rush on the part of every oil company in the world to get their drilling equipment to my island. Then, if there did turn out to be a lot of oil there, I could drop the price to $10 a barrel and OPEC would be out of business. Their wells were too expensive to drill and maintain at that price and still make a profit. As a world market price of $20 a barrel, as I proposed, they could still make a little money. When this explanation came out worldwide, there's no commas. This is so weird. When this explanation came out worldwide, should be a comma, esteem for yours truly, Empress Theresa, reached hysterical levels. President Stinson, speaking at a veterans dinner, said, Theresa is either the smartest woman who ever lived or the luckiest. My dream of early retirement after the rain restoration was replaced by enough projects to keep a dozen people busy. The next task was to raise the Jewish island. I carved out the needed slab of rock in the ocean bottom, carved the specified mountains from adjacent rock, as well as the small hills Prime Minister Scherzer had drawn on his map, slid the mountains and hills up onto the rock slab, scraped off the numerous small volcanic mountains, and scraped some rock off the center of the slab for the lake's depression. The mountain. Okay, sorry. The lake. I was getting the apostrophe was throwing me off. The mountains I'd put on the slab were 20,000 feet tall and stuck up a mile into the air, even before I started raising the island. It took a day to move them to the center of the slab. It was a startling sight. What was I doing? The world wondered. Then I pushed crushed rock under the slab. This was a dangerous operation to do in the middle of the North Atlantic with Europe on one side and America on the other. If Hal failed at this time, the island would crash down, causing a deadly tsunami. To minimize the potential disaster, I raised the slab only 5 feet at a time and filled the space with rock before raising it another 5 feet. When the island reached the desired height, I let out a sigh of relief. I hoped to never have to do this again on such a large scale. Meanwhile, was work was begun to get oil from my island near Antarctica. Jan Struthers told oil companies to go explore the island immediately and financial details could be worked out later. Within 2 days of this island's rising to the surface, an ExxonMobil service ship set off with exploratory uh, exploratory cruise. I can't read, and all the basic needs that human beings would need in that primitive place. The ship reached the island in 6 days. Two helicopters stored on the ship's deck shuttled back and forth from the mooring to the island's shore. Vehicles with large tires for traveling over inhospitable terrain were taken to the island by powered rafts. In 24 hours, a camp had been set up near the shore. Exploratory teams set out into the island. One of the helicopter's functions was to photograph the land contours to see where the oil deposits were most likely. Armed with this information, the exploratory teams drove to the likely sites and set up their equipment. They sank sensitive microphones into the ground. A couple of men 100 yards away set off a dynamic charge. The shock wave traveled into the ground and bounced back up to the microphones, feeding the information into computers. Three such men studied the computer screen. Sorry, I thought that was going to be anything. Three such men studied the computer screen. Reporters recorded their activity. Next page. Bingo, said one of them. A hit the first time. Yup, said the second. This is a hole. Other exploratory teams miles away made similar hits. The forearm of the team said, if the whole island is like this, we have oil for 1,000 years. There's an exception in the rich people's circles. What are you worth on paper? On paper, I was a multi-trillionaire. I was still 18. As for OPEC, Steve and Parker were watching me innocently, hand-feeding my innocent little chipmunks, when they tr- Steve told Parker, they tried to blackmail something out of Theresa. They're guilty of criminal stupidity. It's their fault they're going to lose everything. It's incredible how stupid people are. Ah, indeed. It is incredible how stupid people can be, such as me trying to get back into reading this book. I could have just laid this off and say, oh, I'm losing my momentum. I haven't read for a month. What's the point of getting back? But no, I still find ways to get an excuse to read this darn book. And it was mostly, is this going to be the rest of the book, to be honest? Just Teresa being like, oh, I need to move the oceans, I need to move the ice, give this place oil, give that thing oil. If that's going to be the rest of the chapters, then, like I said, it's just kind of boring. Like, I feel bad because it's like I'm not understanding most of what I'm reading, and, I hate to push the blame out, but I got a feeling that it's not just me having poor reading comprehension. I can read the Bible and mostly understand it pretty well, but reading this, I'm not so much, and, sorry for leaving in the middle of recording. Figures my mom just got back, had a big accident, had to stop the recording, and yeah, it's cleaning up, like bent a leg really badly back, and got a really bad toe out of that whole thing, and I'm just hoping she's okay and all that. Went out to go get some steak dinner. It's been a rough year, I'd say. I mean, a lot of people, like, this is kind of a personal thing, but just a lot of people kind of close to me, like whether they're friends or coworkers, they've died, and I don't know. It's been a little bit rough, and I am glad to get back. And even if it's something as silly as this, it's all right for me to get into this all. And anyway, time for scripture of the day. Okay, so I'm gonna be honest. The scripture that I'm gonna be reading today, I mean, usually I try to pick out one that's related to the chapter or related to something that I just read because I try to like I always do my best to try and find God or uh, in whatever it is that I'm reading or getting into because I need to make sure that he's in my life. That's I'm always seeking him and all that. But I guess this is kind of just me being selfish, and it's on a personal level, I guess, with some of the stuff that's been happening. Shall I say, with hardships and whatnot. I'm going to be reading. So this one's not related to Teresa, but it's more just kind of with, I guess, what's been going on this year. I'm going to be reading Romans chapter 5, verse 1 through 4. Therefore, since we have been justified by faith, we have peace with God through our Lord Jesus Christ. Through him, we have also obtained access by faith into this grace in which we stand, and we rejoice in hope of the glory of God. Not only that, but we rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope. That's the English Standard Version that I'm reading. I'm using that version in particular because that's the one that my mom reads from, and she likes it. And with what she's been going through, I really wanted to read out of her Bible. There's 4 footnotes here, and some might be more. Like, sorry, I just like reading all this. Therefore, we've been justified by our faith. Some manuscripts say, let us, as in, let us have peace with God. And in verse 2, obtained access by faith. Some manuscripts omit by faith, so just obtained access into this grace, I guess, which some of them say. And into this grace we stand, and we, or let us, just like verse 3, and in like as in let us rejoice, and for rejoice it says or boast, let us boast in hope of the glory of God, is what they can also be translated to. So that'll be it for this episode. Thank you very much for sticking through this to the end. Uh, any of my other brothers and sisters in Christ, I'd like some prayers for my mom for her recovery. Thank you very much for all you've done. Have a good one, and God bless you.